serving the Cayman Islands. And Cayman Pharmacy Group, with locations in West Base and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. And Seaboard Marine. With over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling Seaboard Marine at 949-4977.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Arit Connor.
Hey, good morning and welcome. It's a different day. It's the same mic, a different host for the same station, and the same informative, engaging opportunity for our listeners. We're expecting the good company of MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris to be our guests on this morning's edition of For the Record. Stay tuned. Oh, hey, Mr. Fox here is setting me up, man. It's Monday, so play games with a new guy. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to you joining me back shortly in a couple of hours for the usual talk today, where I'll sit in my slot and feel more comfortable right here, trying to fill the, awesome shoes of Mr. O.C. Man, it's an honor to be able to sit here. I want to wish he was sitting next to me, not just for his only for his guidance. But good morning, my brethren. Good morning, and welcome For the Record. I know it's the same thing. I mean, you dial the numbers 949-8037, or you can WhatsApp 1-800-534-8255 as an option either to call if you so choose. Or when Austin Harris or MLA and Councillor joins us, we invite you to be a part of our discussion. He's expected to give us sort of a roundup of the Legislative Assembly recently concluded on the BRAC. Not, insignificant undertaking, not just because of the logistics, the financial and otherwise, and moving all the resources there, but extending that to the wider community and giving the people a chance to see democracy at play. 8949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. You can send us an email for the record at candw.ky. And remember, as they remind me, as I do my very best to, try hard to forget, we're live streaming on YouTube. So you go on, you take and you type in the, opportunity to watch us there if you want. It's radio, apparently. This is the 21st century. And as a couple of our listeners are tuned in and signing their comments on our WhatsApp, hey, you can do the same. 925-3261. Man, it's a great day, man. And to be able to sit here and see and listen and be engaged, what an opportunity for us. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. To share your thoughts with us as we remind you, we're expecting MLA and Councillor Austin Harris to be our guest. He'll certainly, give us the roundup as to what transpired within the Legislative Assembly in this last sitting. Even though it's on the BRAC, the business of the country, the government still continues. If you're driving in and you're expecting that awesome, eloquent, voice of Mr. Arit Connor, well, I get the honor this morning to sit in for him. Looking forward to you joining me later on our regular slot and talk today. But for now, an opportunity to sit in. So you can call and share your thoughts with us. Drive safely on your way into work. I know as the Monday morning rolls around and the students are, eagerly engaged, anticipating the week, please be absolutely careful. But likewise, be reminded that we have much, and to whom much is given, much is required, and we expect much of ourselves as we do of each other. 8949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. You can WhatsApp 925-3261, or you can also email for the record at candw.ky. They come through, we read, we share, and we engage. And as we get the opportunity, hopefully, to be able to discuss with our scheduled guests, MLA and Councillor Austin Harris, For the meantime, it'll be some open line. You can share your thoughts with us. Who knows? No prizes to be won by being the first caller. No prizes to be won, and no shame in being the final caller. You just get to open the word and the closing bell. Either way, you get a chance to share your thoughts with us as we sit here and engage you. And this Monday morning edition of For the Record. So, looking at a few things, as I was considered the honor to be able to sit here and fill the seat, or try anyway, for Mr. Hart. Recognizing that when you listen to this show as I do, you see the dynamic, a chance to be more political, to be more engaged and sort of informed, to be, avail of the opportunity, some would share. They're in the morning, maybe they've only been up a couple hours, maybe they're just waking up and pouring themselves their first, or maybe they're enjoying their second cup. But either way, as they're out running, hopefully as some of you do, you get a chance to think about what is happening in the country, where we're going to go. Now, as I'll share with you perhaps later on, this discussion about the country and its democracy, the debate between the UK and the government, the potential for our changing, sort of political relationship, but equally, the engagement of some of our younger people relative to, our constitution, our government's policies, priorities, its expenditure and projects. Where are we as, the older ones who supposedly are being in position now to hand over to them, not just these millennials that are going to be expected to take up the fore, but the ones coming thereafter. Hey, share your thoughts with us here on For the Record, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, you can, WhatsApp, 925-3261. All the same numbers take you to the same studio, all for an opportunity to share. And as we look at how the day unfolds, maybe we've already determined and mapped out our plan, our objective. Perhaps we're still, mindful and waiting and saying, let's see, what the world has in store for us. For some, we intend to be the champions of our own causes, the masters of our destiny. Others just wait and wonder and wish. All right, well, where's your perspective? 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. If Mr. Hart was here, I would share with him an interesting discourse that I had over the weekend with some individuals who were saying that they're not sure it's because if it's him and his expertise and his experience as Chief Immigration Officer, as Cabinet Secretary, maybe it's just his persona and the like, but the willingness and ease with which they engage with the political banter, not just being critical, constructive, or otherwise of the government, of the government's policies, but the political discourse that transpires on the program. I think, like them, find it very enlightening and finding it informative and engaging, and seeing that the willingness of the people. Someone has shared that they saw where on the cards of others, they would look at Radio Cayman as being this thing that is a government station. I think men see it the way most of us do. It's a station that, if it's a government radio station, that means for us that it's funded very willingly, openly, and beneficially to the benefit of all of us as citizens in this country, and we take it with great pride and responsibility as a resource to be able to call up and contribute, whether it's going to be very critical of something that is happening in our country or very complimentary, whether that is in favor of a politician or a particular government, or whether it's going to be almost as if it's an indictment against a particular course of action or a thought process or a comment. And I think that is the health and strength and measure of our democracy. As I would say, I would share with him, this small group of individuals just recently was saying that if we're not careful, we could be losing that. Not just the voice through our public radio, but through our other media outlets, but even in our wider communities. And the seemingly unwillingness of so many to take up, what was that mantle that was laid down way back when, through our initial sort of outings of talk shows back in the day of Mr. Doran, from his own approach to more recent times. And I think someone like Mr. Hart brings that acumen to our tables, but equally brings within us an appreciation, a confidence, and an understanding that it is for us to be able to be so engaged and encouraged. So 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. If you choose, you can WhatsApp 925-3261, or if you want, you can send us your thoughts on our email, for the record, at candw.ky. And if you just tune in, you say, well, wait a minute, that's not a start. No, man, I don't have that eloquence. And that's not Donna or April or the other, fill-ins for him from time to time. Nope. And it's not talk today. Your time isn't off, your clock isn't, it's sad. 8949-8037. We'll pause and take a short break, and when we come back, more for the record.
Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
A significant development, or lack thereof, in the Cayman Islands' histories is the absence of archaeological evidence of Amerindian settlements. Archaeologists' search started from the 1920s when Mr. Jess Fuchs came to the islands until 1994 when archaeologist William Keegan explored the shores and caves around Grand Cayman. However, this did not prove productive as no evidence of previous human occupation was found. The Amerindians of the Caribbean have been long known to have excellent maritime skills, traveled long distances, settling in Jamaica, Cuba, and the Isle of Pines, but there has been no proof of settlement in the Cayman Islands. It is almost incomprehensible that these proficient mariners would have simply missed the existence of these islands. A more believable prospect is that the islands did not have much to offer the previous visitors, given the absence of fresh water, edible foliage, not to mention the abundance of crocodile guardians that were present here.
Radio Cayman's Historical Facts Vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
I need a bank that is convenient for me.
What do you mean?
I need a bank that has easy-to-find locations and plenty ATMs when I need cash on the go.
Oh, well, that's easy. You need to bank with Cayman National. They have 7 customer service centers and 23 ATM locations. The newest one is at the East End Post Office, and I hear there's more to come.
Well, sounds like I need to bank with Cayman National Bank, the convenient bank, because they seem to be everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Cayman National is everywhere. Surely they are Cayman's convenient bank.
Cayman National Bank. We're here for you.
Did you hear that Vant Motors has your sale going on now? And you get your choice on the money you'll save on your new car or truck?
My sale? My choice? Really?
Yeah, and they have lots of cars on sale. Some up to $7,000 off.
Sounds pretty good.
It gets even better. You can choose to take the full discount, or you can get some or all of it as cash back.
Extra cash back would be great.
Exactly. And you can even use the savings to extend your warranty or service plan so you'll drive worry-free for years longer.
Another good idea.
If you want to upgrade with something like a new roof rack or backup camera, you can choose that too.
Wow, I get to choose?
Yeah, that's why it's your sale, your choice. Going on now at Vant Motors on Walkers Road, while stocks last.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Can you explain what a less than container load is for shipment and what your minimum charge is?
Sure. A less than container load, or LCL, is any overseas shipment that does not require the full space of a container. At Seaboard, we have great rates for small packages. Just let us know the dimensions of your package and we'll help you out from there.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Oh
my acid reflux is killing me.
Why don't you get something from the grocery store?
I need something better than any generic quick fix.
You should go to West Bay Pharmacy and have a brief consultation with the pharmacist. I went in last week and within minutes I was back in the car and on the road. And you know what? No more acid reflux.
How long did it take you?
Minutes. Here, give them a call at 945-0777.
West Bay Pharmacy is just around the corner with everything you need in the hours you need it. Visit us today for fast, efficient, and professional service. We are here as a team to assist you while taking care of your health. Call us today or visit our website at caymanpharmacy.com.
Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record with your host, Auret Connor.
Hey, good morning and welcome back. And if I were good and skillful as my son and doing voices, I would try to do and imitate Mr. Auret Connor, but hey, and not only is he tall and more handsome, but I don't think I want to go do 12 rounds with him. But in the studio, as promised, MLA Councillor and, as I make sure I get it right now, acting temporary minister in the Ministry of Home Affairs, is it?
Human Resources, Immigration and Community Affairs.
I was going to say the new Governor General, but I don't know, man.
Not quite yet.
People say, boy, you really, really want to stir the pot.
Not quite yet.
My friend, Mr. Harris, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you, Sterling. It is a pleasure to join you this morning. Looking forward to the discussion that will ensue. And for your listening audience, certainly good morning to them. The purpose of being here, of course, is to provide, as usual, the wrap-up of the most recent Legislative Assembly meetings that took place first in Cayman Brac, and then, of course, concluded here in Grand Cayman just this past week. A special good morning to the constituents of Prospect, in particular, who are undoubtedly making their way in traffic, heading into town to their daily duties. A special good morning to them.
You know, maybe I should say good morning to my constituents on radio land, internet land.
There you go. You should.
No. I want to get invited back later on. I have something else to do this afternoon.
Yes.
No, but thank you for coming on. And we don't sometimes appreciate how significant it is that the country and its people can get to see the government at work.
Yes.
And I believe whether it's a national library or whether it's the main courthouse or the town hall, the Legislative Assembly, those buildings in themselves, not institutions, but the buildings, are significant. But when that sort of thing can transpire, somewhere else, out of this normal sort of setting, then the public can access it, still respect the protocols and the procedures and the policies and all the people in there.
Yes.
And through that decorum and presence, give us a chance to see democracy, at play. It's important, man.
Yes. I'm actually glad that you said that and you began that way, because certainly some questions have been asked in the public domain. Why are we hosting, meetings of the Legislative Assembly on the sister islands in the first instance? But I think it is important, as you stated, that members of the public have an opportunity to see and experience the work of their legislators in the Assembly as it is happening. And whilst that opportunity is readily made available here in Grand Cayman, it is not likewise readily made available on the sister islands. Our recent visit to the sister islands actually marked the 50th anniversary of the first ever meeting of the Legislative Assembly in the sister islands. The first took place on the 28th and the 29th of March, 1968, before I was born. And certainly it was designed specifically for that purpose, that we are three islands, and we must ensure accessibility to the elected representatives, but also an opportunity for members of the public, should they so wish, to participate in their democracy in action. And certainly, whilst we were in the Sister Islands for a period of about a week, 3 days of which were spent at the Aston Ruddy Civic Centre, where it played host to the Legislative Assembly, we were able to conduct the country's business, and it was also provided an opportunity for residents of the Sister Islands of Brac in particular, many of whom came out to witness in the gallery those discussions, and I thought it was a tremendous success. And before getting into perhaps the main meat of our discussions, let me certainly extend a heartfelt thanks to the District Commissioner, Mr. Ernie Scott, for facilitating, in particular, the government caucus, but certainly also likewise extending services to all of the members of the Legislative Assembly, including the opposition. You know, whilst on the one hand it's an opportunity for the residents of the Sister Islands to meet with in person, to experience their democracy in action, it also provided an opportunity for ourselves as legislators to also see firsthand both the opportunities and challenges that exist on the Sister Islands, and to encourage us to incorporate their needs as part of our overall strategic policy and plan moving forward. Because, again, as I said before, we are 3 islands, one people.
Yeah. And the thing is, that for me, and as I sort of appreciate, the opportunity to get from your sort of synopsis of what transpired, but to have our elderly, and particularly our youth, our students, to be able to access. Now, I know on Grand Cayman we don't as much. Perhaps schools have other things on their agendas, the logistics of moving children to an event for a field trip or the like. But if the Cayman students wanted to see the Legislative Assembly, ordinarily, that's a plane ride over on Cayman Airways. Mm-hmm. Potentially it could be an overnight stay, but there's a lot more involved than for us here on Grand Cayman going down to the Legislative Assembly.
Yes.
In future, with that opportunity of being available to them, perhaps more often.
Indeed. And certainly, to that point, I was encouraged to see a number of the Cayman Brac primary schools in attendance. The teachers came out. A lot of young children were present, particularly for the state opening, which was held in Cayman Brac with all of the usual pomp and prestige. For that, we have to thank the Honourable Speaker of the House for ensuring that we did not shortchange, as the case may be, our fellow Caymanians in the Sister Islands any opportunity to see what, again, regularly transpires here in Grand Cayman. But I was also particularly encouraged by the number of young people that came out to see it, to witness it. And who knows, maybe sitting in those seats were a number of future legislators in the future.
Yep.
I would certainly hope so anyway.
Yep. Senior civil servants, who knows where that'll be. But that, plants that seed. So, Mr. Harris, I certainly appreciate it. I know that, for many of us, this show in particular, I enjoy listening to it. It's not just the political nature of it in terms of it informative, but it has a particular audience, specifically geared to a particular type of discussion. And I think that's where we get informed, but it shows our people deference for a political system, and preference at times. So.
Indeed, sir. Well, certainly at the Legislative Assembly held recently in the Brac and then concluded here in Grand Cayman just last week, it provided, I think, the country with an opportunity for an update in terms of what has been accomplished in the last 15 months as a government, as a country. It sought specifically to make some amendments to a number of fundamental laws, which hopefully we'll have a chance to touch on this morning. The National Honours and Awards Bill. There was the Anti-Corruption Amendment Bill. There was the Penal Code Amendment Bill, which I'm particularly proud of because not only does it address a specific area that was promised during the campaign, but as we look across the landscape, regrettably, the threats against particularly our children are growing, and I'm encouraged and proud to be a part of a government that is seeking to provide the mechanisms and filling the gaps that serves to protect our innocent children, particularly from predators, sexual or otherwise, and we'll obviously talk a little bit about that. There were some amendments to the Cayman Islands Red Cross bill, which regrettably I don't have with me this morning. I tried to acquire all of them, but unfortunately it just didn't happen. There were some minor amendments, but it is something I pledge to return to you, whether it be on this show or hopefully perhaps on your regularly scheduled show that you host, the afternoon Talk Today program. But I will certainly provide those details to yourselves and the listening audience once I have them available to me.
Appreciate the undertaking, man. Thanks very much for that. But it gives us a chance, because one thing we can, either try to listen to it ourselves, we can get a reprint from some media outlet, but hearing it from the legislators directly, and as part of your heart, you're the whip as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A whip's role that really only exists during the Legislative Assembly meetings themselves, but certainly to that extent, I also want to extend my heartfelt thanks to my fellow colleagues in the government for not only showing up to the meetings, but for being studious with their time, making sure they were available for the votes, and certainly for those members of the government who did offer up contributions. I want to thank them for doing so in an orderly and an efficient manner, which made really my job as whip extremely easy. I also want to thank the opposition for conducting themselves in a similar manner, and I think that the meetings that were held both on the sister islands of Cayman Brac and the conclusion that took place here in Grand Cayman was another success for the Legislative Assembly overall.
They were indeed. I think that's the beautiful part of it. We can see it, and even when the discussions may get heated, some parliaments around the world, we can see it almost looked scripted. Some, you can see the raw emotion when we watch clips, and it doesn't matter if that's a healthy democracy. Just use the UK for instance. Sometimes you're watching Unison doing question time when they all rise. It's part and parcel of that plain banter.
Yes.
But then there are times when you can see that on the face of someone, you're like, boy, if only I could. Put them up. Boy. And it's, you like it or you don't, but if it catches you sometimes, but we won't go there, right?
Oh, so that's why I do enjoy our sessions together, because whilst we have a great many of serious conversations to have, certainly, the moment for levity, a little humor, makes these interviews a lot easier.
Thank you, man. In absence of coffee, you got to be able to laugh.
Well,
right?
Exactly.
We'll get that after. All right. I think Mr. Fox is ready for the news. If he can find his way back to the chair. No? Keep talking. Say good to go.
Fair enough.
Boy, the cues they give me for this one is different from what they give me for the other one.
Yeah, exactly. You're in the big leagues now there, Sterling. You're in the big leagues now.
Some big shoes to fill, man.
Yeah. Going back to the activities of the Legislative Assembly in the Sister Islands and in Cayman Brac, one of the things that my unity government are seeking to overcome is the tendency and the otherwise sentiment that the government, as a government, oftentimes does a great deal of work, but one of its failings, which has been in the past, is that they have failed to communicate these things and these achievements to members of the listening audience, in particular the voters who put us in this high office. And certainly it has been one of my ambitions since taking office and being part of this unity government to improve the quality of communication that we have with the general public. So certainly I want to thank you again for opportunities like this that enable us to do just that. The meetings wrapped up Friday last week, and immediately, without any further delay, first thing Monday of this new week, here we are in studios talking to you and providing you and your listening audience with a summary and update in terms of what was achieved, what was discussed, an opportunity to highlight the plans that we put in place in November as part of the strategic policy statement and the budget address, and what has been accomplished since that time, I think is important. And certainly the government and myself, we pledge to continue to improve on that communication so that the general listening audience can be kept abreast of our progress and on the various goals that we've set for ourselves. And we're trying to improve on that level of communication. And for that, we thank Radio Cayman in particular for providing a willing platform in order to get that message across, whether it be this show on the record or whether it be the afternoon show, which you more regularly host, the Talk Today program.
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate that. That's why we're here at Radio Cayman. Now, when we come back from our news break, we get a chance to get that update of what happened in our Legislative Assembly. So please, stay tuned.
Radio Cayman time check is now 8 a.m. This time check is brought to you by our friends at Price Right.
Price Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Price Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Priced Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Access. Information. Your community. News and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. The Office of the Premier fires back after a report in the UK media claiming Cayman is making it difficult for law enforcement to do its job. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has more.
A slew of articles pointed a critical finger at Cayman, citing Donald Toon, the Director of Economic and Cybercrime at the National Crime Agency in the UK. The claim that it struggles to get data from the Cayman Islands. A statement from the Premier's office over the weekend said there is absolutely no merit to the allegation, calling the complaint a gross misrepresentation of a single situation and no basis on which to accuse the Cayman Islands of being uncooperative. The Premier's office says there's been only one case in May 2018 in which a legal issue affected Cayman's response time to an NCA request, and the issue has since been resolved. The Premier's office described the criticism as a baseless attack on Cayman's economy and reputation, speculating it's due to Cayman's public criticism of and effort to fight the UK move to mandate public beneficial ownership registers here. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
2 people are under arrest for taking whelk out of season along with drug offenses. This report from Radio Cayman's Shanda Gallego.
Officers of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service got a call out to Kaipo Beach in North Side on the morning of September 13th to assist marine officers with the Department of Environment as they searched a vehicle belonging to persons who were suspected to have been taking marine life from a marine park. Police reported bag containing a quantity of whelks was recovered in the vehicle, and a quantity of suspected ganja in various containers was also recovered during the search. The suspects, a 35-year-old man of Bodden Town and a 37-year-old woman also of Bodden Town, were arrested on suspicion of possession and consumption of ganja and arrested on suspicion of taking whelks outside of the season. They were taken to the Cayman Islands Detention Center and later bailed. The RCIPS and DOE are reminding everyone it is currently closed season for whelks, and during this time, no one may take whelks in Cayman or purchase, receive, or possess whelks taken in the Cayman Islands. Shanda Gallego, Radio Cayman News.
And just a quick note, the Department of Environmental Health wishes to advise the public that its main office will be closed from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. today for a staff meeting. During that time, you can call 949-8793 for assistance with urgent solid waste matters, or you can email DEH customer service at gov.ky. They are apologizing for any inconvenience caused by the closure. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC who will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Debbie Russ. The head of the International Monetary Fund has warned of serious economic fallout to Britain in the event that it and the European Union fail to reach a deal on Brexit. Christine Lagarde urged both parties to work diligently to avoid a disorderly cliff-edge Brexit. The former Vice President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Jean-Pierre Bemba, is to be sentenced shortly by international judges for bribing witnesses during an earlier war crimes trial. The International Criminal Court in The Hague acquitted the one-time rebel leader 3 months ago for war crimes and crimes against humanity. The The Swiss bank Credit Suisse has been reprimanded by the country's financial regulator for failing to implement money laundering controls. The cases are linked to funds from suspected corruption involving football's world governing body FIFA and the Venezuelan and Brazilian state oil companies. A court in Belgium has rejected Spain's extradition request for a rapper who fled in May after being given a 3.5-year jail sentence for insulting Spain's royal family and glorifying terrorism. Josep Miguel Arenas Beltran, who records under the name of Valtonic, denies the accusations. He had suggested in a lyric that the king should be hanged. The Algerian president, Abdel Aziz Bouteflika, is reported to have sacked the heads of the country's land, sea and air forces in his government's latest move against the military. The Secretary-General of the Ministry of Defence is also reported to have been dismissed in a continuing bid to weaken the military, which was once the true centre of power. A Roman Catholic bishop in India, accused of raping a nun, has written to Pope Francis offering to step down temporarily. A spokesman said Bishop Franco Mulalakal made the decision on his own, so the truth could be established. The nun from Kerala accuses the clergyman of sexually assaulting her over 2 years. BBC News.
Access. Information. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
The Lions Club of Grand Cayman's breakfast is back Saturday, September 22nd, starting at 7 a.m. Enjoy a Caribbean breakfast of fried fish and fritters, liver and onions, ackee and saltfish, starting at $10, and help support the Lions Club and your community. The breakfast is also the last opportunity for participants to register and collect their bags for the 7th annual Delno Hislop 15-mile walk run. Get your Caribbean breakfast this Saturday, September 22nd, starting at 7 a.m.
Recovery from mental and substance use disorders is real. It happens every day.
You can recover.
Discover hope and help.
Never give up on yourself.
Join the Voices for Recovery.
If you, your family member or friend are in need of support, please contact Department of Counseling Services at 949-8789.
In financial news, global markets were mostly lower today following reports that U.S. President Donald Trump will place tariffs on $200 billion more in Chinese goods, despite a possible meeting to iron out tensions between the world's two largest economies. Keeping score in Europe, France's CAC 40 fell 0.4% to 5,331, while the DAX in Germany dropped 0.5% to 12,062. Britain's FTSE 100 declined 0.3% to 7,283. Wall Street was set for a muted open. Dow futures fell less than 0.1% to 26,178. S&P 500 futures shed 0.1% to 2,910. Looking at Asia's stage, South Korea's Kospi fell 0.7% to 2,303, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index tumbled 1.3% to 26,932. The Shanghai Composite Index lost 1.1% to 2,651, but Australia's S&P ASX 200 rose 0.3% to 6,185. In energy, fears that Hurricane Florence may disrupt supply in the U.S. East Coast boosted oil prices. Benchmark U.S. crude added 51 cents to $69.50 a barrel today. The contract added 0.6% to settle at $68.99 a barrel in New York. Brent crude, used to price international oils, gained 47 cents to $78.56 a barrel. It shed 0.1% to $78.09 a barrel in London. And in currencies, the dollar eased to 112 yen from 112.03. The euro strengthened to 1.1649 from 1.1632.
Tune in to Radio Cayman every morning at 7:20 a.m. for your daily weather update. Proudly brought to you by Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. With over 47 years of experience, they'll get the job done for you on time. Free estimate. Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. Call them at 949-4709 for a free estimate.
Do you have a customer shutoff valve installed downstream of your water meter? If not, please contact the Water Authority to discuss having one installed. The customer shutoff valve enables you to turn off the water between the meter and your property. In the event of a storm, turning off the customer shutoff valve can prevent unexpectedly high water bills and property damage should a leak occur in your property's plumbing. This hurricane preparedness tip is brought to you by Water Authority Cayman, suppliers of the world's most popular drink.
Your weather update after 8 is brought to you by Brand Source Home Gallery, creating elegant bathrooms with European-style fixtures and fittings.
Good morning, Cayman. Let's take a look at your latest weather conditions. Present temperature 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Conditions on the outside partly sunny. Relative humidity 83%. Winds are out of the northeast at 5 knots. The barometric pressure is at 29.83 and holding. Synopsis for today: scattered showers along with light winds and slight seas are expected over the next 24 hours in association with a weak pressure gradient across the northwest Caribbean. Further east, a broad area of low pressure, remnants of Isaac, located over Jamaica, is expected to move into the Cayman area this afternoon, supporting an increase in cloudiness and shower activity. National Hurricane Centers also issuing advisories on Tropical Depression Joyce. Of course, this system poses no threat to the Cayman Islands. Forecast for today: partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers and possible thunder this morning, becoming cloudy with a 60% chance of showers and thunder from this afternoon over Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, and this evening over Grand Cayman. Showers may become locally heavy at times. Temperatures will rise to the upper 80s. Winds will be east to northeast at 5 to 10 knots this morning, becoming east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots by this evening. Seas will be smooth to slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet this morning, becoming moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet by this evening. For tonight, cloudy skies with a 60% chance of showers and thunder. Showers may become locally heavy at times. Temperatures will fall to the upper 70s. Winds will be east to southeast 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. We're currently in a high tide. Low tide is coming up at 11:03 this morning. It's going to be high at 6:08 this evening. For tomorrow, low tide is at 12:25 a.m. It's going to be high at 5:45 a.m., low at 12:02 p.m., and high at 6:45 p.m. Sunset this evening is at 6:24. Sunrise for Tuesday morning at 6:14. And the outlook is for continuing cloudy, rainy conditions through Wednesday morning as the area of low pressure moves over the Western Caribbean. That's your latest weather right here on your Radio Cayman.
Weather update after 8 is brought to you by Brand Source Home Gallery, creating elegant bathrooms with European-style fixtures and fittings.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
Morning, taking a look at traffic conditions. Of course, looking further east along the east-west arterial, roads have cleared up, but coming closer to Georgetown, looking at the Linford-Pearson Highway, just as you turn on, you'll experience some traffic as you move on along the way. Of course, Crew Road just as well with traffic heading in as it merges, people coming off of Agnes Way or Bobby Thompson Way onto Smith Road. And of course, heading on to Huldah Avenue, you'll experience a little bit of traffic heading in the northern direction if you're going on to Elgin Avenue or North Sound Road. And of course, getting on to your respective streets, you should experience a little traffic once you get into Georgetown. Shun Road looking okay so far. Eastern Avenue, Godfrey Nixon Way. Looking at the roundabout just outside A.L. Thompson, very much busy. Traffic coming off the Escalade Tibbetts Highway. I would say the majority of traffic is easing up, coming from the West Bay regions. West Bay Road looking quite busy as well, but traffic is moving good. So just that little bit of traffic snafu out there on the Linford-Pearson Highway, and of course the Crew Road with traffic coming from the east, which is moving along even though it's kind of slow. Buckle up, stay safe. That's the latest traffic report. Coming up, your sport report and back into For the Record.
At Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you.
This September at Kirk Home Center. Save on Pratt & Lambert Pro Hide Gold Interior Flat Latex Paint. 5 gallons for $99.99. And touch-up details with a 3-pack Pro Max paintbrush set for $10.99. Enjoy homemade dinners on a 30-piece white porcelain dinnerware set from Gibson for $31.09. Organize, store away, and declutter with storage totes starting at $12.79.
Kirk's Home Center. You got a great deal in store for you.
In local sports, the Fidelity Fun Run Series 3 of 3 wraps up this coming weekend. It's an annual series of 2-mile fun runs, usually held on the first 3 Saturdays in September. The event starts at 7:30 a.m. on Walkers Road opposite the former John Gray High School, and it includes a 2-mile loop beginning on Walkers Road, then down on to South Church Street before finishing on Denham-Thompson Way. In international sports, despite another win and a perfect record to start the Spanish League, there's reason for concern ahead of Barcelona's Champions League debut this week. The defending league champions had another lackluster performance in its 2-1 come-from-behind win at Real Sociedad on Saturday, creating a bit of a worry ahead of its match against PSV Eindhoven on Tuesday. Succeeding in the Champions League is one of Barcelona's main goals this season after struggling in the European competition in recent years, failing to make it past the quarterfinals in 3 straight seasons. And Trinidad Knight Riders reinforced their standing as the preeminent team of the short Caribbean Premier League history by becoming the first team to win the CPL title in successive seasons. The Trinidad side won their 3rd title, won once as T&T Red Still, with relative ease as they produced a near-perfect game to keep Guyana Amazon Warriors down to a subpar 147 before Colin Monroe milked his good form to score an unbeaten 68 and wrap up the chase with 2.3 overs to spare.
Initiating system.
For information that matters, for the record, with Orit Connor, continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Ready? Hey, good afternoon. Nope, it isn't. I just want to see if you're still awake. It's morning. And no, I won't even endeavor to try to do Mr. Orit's voice. But I'm honored to be able to sit in this seat and hopefully engage, inform, involve you, and certainly have the excellent company, MLA Councillor, and, for the week, the next couple of, how long, man? Acting temporary minister? Next 4 years, I think.
Yeah, no, just until the end of the week. Just until the end of the week.
Well,
not even the end of the week.
Yeah, your team is going, boy, either you putting words in his mouth or he's setting you up, and which is it?
I'm having nothing to do with the words that are coming out of Sterling DeWayne's mouth. I'm just having fun with it.
For it.
You take responsibility.
Either that, I get the deputy governor call me and say, listen now, young man, you behave yourself.
You stepped into my territory now. The whole deputy governor nonsense.
No. But listen, as we joke and jest, if you can't laugh at them on the morning and set this, the tone.
Yeah.
I just try them, on Monday afternoon at least,
Well, we talk about deputy governor, and I just want to, I've said it before.
We're talk publicly about one.
I said it before and I say it again. Whilst we, again, the elected, much like the citizens of this country, are still very much, in the dark, if you will, as it relates to the investigations of the former governor who was only here for a short time. That aside, I want to continue to congratulate the Honourable Deputy Governor, who is the acting governor, Frans Manderson, for doing a fantastic job. Certainly, if I had an opportunity to have my wish, I would certainly say that, I think Mr. Manderson is doing such a fine job that he should be allowed to continue that job until such time as, either Mr. Chowdhury is returned or perhaps, the potential that we may receive another governor. Again, I don't know what direction that is going to go in, and certainly the information that has been shared with us is no greater than the information that has been shared with the listening audience, other than the fact that investigation into his conduct is expected to take about 3 months. But all of that aside, I simply state that I think the Deputy Governor, now acting Governor, Honourable Frans Manderson, is doing a fantastic job. And Caymanian to Caymanian, it is a special feeling knowing that you have one of your own occupying that specific high office. And certainly if he's listening, I say a very pleasant good morning to our acting Governor.
Amen to that, brother. But, we won't get into it now, but the question was always asked, and I can't answer it. Is Mr. Chowdhury still being paid from our treasury?
It's a very good question, actually. It is a very good question. Certainly, I'll make a note, perhaps something to follow up and get back to you on.
Because if he hasn't
well.
cashed his checks, I can find some people who take them.
I'm sure, indeed.
Oh boy,
yeah. I think that conversation might be a little bit above my pay grade, but certainly I think it is a legitimate question to be asked, and whilst I don't have the answer for it, I certainly will endeavor to get it for you.
And just so that people can, obviously, draw the inference, and the obvious is there. But in case you missed it, there are many of us who complain when civil servants are put on required leave. We beat up on them.
Yeah, true.
Is this no different?
No, it is no different. And I think it is a legitimate question, and one which, again, like I said, I'll endeavor to get you an answer to.
Breaking news at 6 p.m.
There you go. You heard it first, right here, only on Radio Cayman.
All right, man. But listen, you know what? You got a job to do. Man.
That's right.
So our Legislative Assembly, I had this, sort of meetings on the BRAC, kicking it off, and then concluding here in Grand Cayman.
Yeah.
In the regular familiar seats. And, this was, those Hollywood shows, and they asked all the actors as they come up. The women tend to focus on what they wore, their makeup and their hair, and the men ask them about the action thing. Maybe we could ask you guys, how about the chairs and the seating? I mean,
well, again, like I said in the beginning, I think the BRAC in particular did a really good job at making us feel comfortable. Certainly, the Aston Ruddy Civic Center was fitted out so that it resembled that of the Legislative Assembly. I want to thank the Legislative Assembly staff, starting with Ms. Pat, certainly the Cabinet Office staff, with Ms. Christie, Ms. Jana, Ms. Kim Bullings, a number of persons worked together to make those meetings in the Sister Islands as seamless as they would otherwise occur here on Grand Cayman. And certainly I think everyone involved in the process did a fine job. And yes, the chairs were actually rather very comfortable. Okay. For those who are curious about the seating arrangements. But the meeting in the Legislative Assembly began with the Premier delivering his 2018 State of the Nation address, which really sought to build on the strategic policy statement that was delivered back in August and again in November 2017, which outlined the Unity Government's 4-year plan, which was entitled Stability, Empathy, and Prosperity, a plan for sustainable social and economic development. The State of the Nation address, as I stated earlier on, really also presented the update purposes of saying how much of that plan has been implemented, how far along have we reached, what have been some of the otherwise good news that we could share with members of the listening audience, as well as, of course, an opportunity to talk about some of the legislative changes that were successful at the recent meeting in the Sister Islands. A cornerstone of the Unity Government's ambitious plans is building a strong and resilient economy that will help businesses and families thrive. And I think the Premier, in his address, acknowledged what I think is the one incontrovertible fact about Cayman's economic model, and that is that it takes economic growth to create jobs and opportunities that benefit our people. It also takes economic growth to provide the funds necessary to build schools, to pay teachers, police officers, to pay for health services, to provide resources to the most vulnerable in our society, and also to build necessary infrastructure like roads, airports, seaports, and the like. And certainly, as was outlined by the Premier, the current strategic plan for the Unity Government is pursuing a strategy for growth that is not simply based or restricted on this 4-year term, but is instead about creating the favorable conditions that will very well serve to drive our economy for many years to come. So with your permission, perhaps I may begin by highlighting some of the good news that has been achieved as a country since our November 2017 budget and August strategic policy statement. And maybe we should start with tourism, because it's getting a lot of traction. Tourism records, as you know, continue to tumble as we welcome an increasing number of visitor arrivals. In the first 6 months of 2018, we've already seen a 20% increase over the last period last year. In the crucial stayover market, the first 6 months of the year saw the Cayman Islands exceeding more than 250,000 visitors, which represents a 16% increase over last year. And similarly, on the cruise sector, the first 6 months of the year has seen that we're above the 1 million cruise visitor mark in cruise arrivals. At the beginning of 2019, the government expects the completion of the improvements to the Owen Roberts International Airport, as was outlined by the Premier in his State of the Nation address, which will almost triple the capacity and provide us with much-needed modern airport and infrastructure, both for visitors as well as residents alike. It's important to note, as the Premier alluded to in his address, that these improvements will be paid for in cash, not with new taxes, not with new debt. And I think that fact, in and of itself, is a tremendous achievement by any standard. And certainly we continue to praise the work of the development team, certainly the Ministry of Tourism, for the work going into the redevelopment of Owen Roberts International Airport. I think once it is completed, the fully renovated Owen Roberts International Airport, combined with the recent upgrades to the Charles Kirkconnell International Airport in the Sister Islands, will be a major step in air transport for these islands and will work towards improving what some may argue have been the rather stagnant numbers in the stayover side of the equation. Also, a number of improvements have been made to the airport process itself that seeks to benefit residents. As you know, we introduced the Customs Green Channel at the airport, which allows those Caymanians and residents returning home who do not have purchases over the dutiable limit to get through customs much quicker. And that seems to be working very well, and that is improving the efficiency of air travelers returning home. Perhaps that is a good segue to talk about one of the things that were achieved during the last meeting of the Legislative Assembly, which was the decision to increase the personal import duty allowances for residents of this country from $350 per person to $500 per person. I'm happy to report that change will be implemented on the 1st of November, just a few short months from now, and will apply to purchases imported for personal use and not for...
As irrespective of age, I mean, just for argument's sake, someone asks this, but I want to make sure. So say a family of four, travels and two younger children or even the three younger children, something, may all be under 18. Maybe a child is a toddler, you went and you picked up some baby clothes, or maybe it's a teenager. Each of those four, CI dollars, $500.
Each $500 per person.
Okay. Doesn't matter
because it doesn't matter the age, and it represents obviously the items purchased, which would otherwise be filled out on your airport card, so to speak.
Right.
Each person will now increase from $350 to $500. The government examined the potential loss in revenue this may represent to the country, and those in the Ministry of Finance estimated that potential loss in the region of about $1 million. But the unity government, which I'm proud to be a part of, decided that was an affordable amount, in our opinion, to forego, whilst providing our people with some useful monetary relief when it comes down to returning home from whether it be annual vacations, shopping trips, particularly as it relates to school supplies, as we just recently experienced, that will happen year on year. And it's a means of, it's a simple gesture, really, to provide a degree of monetary relief to our citizens, again, for items that we believe are small enough to be considered for personal use without negatively impacting local businesses too much. We acknowledge that certainly there, in some quarters, they will say, well, by increasing the dutiable allowance, we are somehow harming local businesses. We don't believe so because the amounts are relatively small. Also, working in tandem, the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure under the Honourable Joey Hew is working to also reduce the costs for small businesses that we believe will also counteract some of the increases in the dutiable allowances. So now businesses should be able to operate more cost effectively, and therefore the two cancel each other out to the point whereas it does not negatively impact local businesses. But the goal was to provide a form of monetary relief to our citizens who very clearly need it.
Right. Now, it was reported that when Minister Archer was finance that close to 30 million may have been the sum when the government was looking at it back then. Now we're looking at the revalued figures of $1 million. From 30 million to 1 million, and how do we account for that differential? And that was before your time.
Yes. Honestly, I can't speak to what may have existed under the previous minister. I'm not quite sure what that $30 million represents in the context of the former Minister Archer. But certainly the information that was shared in the Legislative Assembly, and in particular to the caucus members, was that the increase in the customs duty would represent a potential lost revenue to the country of about $1 million. So again, when we looking at that $1 million against the overall spreadsheet, the overall balance sheet of the country, we believe it was an affordable amount to forego, with the view of producing a bit of monetary relief for our citizens.
Yes. Mr. Harris, we do have a caller online.
Sure.
Speaking to Mr. Austin, acting temporary minister as well. I don't know tell to his, resume. I mean, luck, I'll promote him to Governor General, but that's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
Let's go to our phones. Hey, good morning, welcome, and thank you for calling for the record.
Good morning, Sterling.
Good morning, Mom. How are you today?
I am very thankful and highly blessed. Good morning, Mr. Harris.
Good morning to you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your call.
Listen now, I got a question and I got a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
The question goes like this. Is that allowance in CI dollars? 500 CI dollars?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And then, okay, my comment now. I actually did not get the second part of that state address.
Mm-hmm.
But I got the first and the third. And in there, some of the things were repeated more than one time.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. I'm listening.
Okay. So that's all I have to say right now.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
continue listening.
Yes, ma'am.
So Sterling knows that I am always with the radio man.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I don't even go to breeze,
Good job.
Hey, Sterling, another thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Sterling, listen good to this one. I want everybody to hear this. About all the parts and all the breaking down and stuff. I've been saying we need new equipment, not just parts. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris?
Yes, ma'am. I'm listening.
Pass that on.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
We need to get new stuff. No, not just parts, no. The parts not even fitting anymore because they're breaking down fast too.
Okay.
All right.
All right, have a good one.
You too,
all right, ma'am. Thank you very much for your call and for your comments.
All right. Mr. Harris, we do have another caller?
Sure.
Welcome. Good morning. Thank you for calling.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Austin.
Good morning to you, ma'am. Thank you for your call.
Yes. Did you mention something a few minutes ago in regards to the customer service in Miami, returning back residents to Grand Cayman?
I didn't mention anything about customer service from Miami. I was talking, what I did mention was the introduction of the Customs Green Channel, which is intended to allow returning residents, particularly coming back from Miami as part of a pilot project, who do not exceed the dutiable allowances in terms of goods that they're bringing back, to be able to get through customs much quicker and more efficient by being able to bypass it through pre-clearance from Miami. It's a pilot project that the government is working on in conjunction with the authorities at the airport, and it seems to be working very well.
So the pre-clearance there in Miami, the Grand Cayman and Cayman Airways.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a friend came out a couple of weeks ago from Miami, and they came straight from the hospital to the airport and was trying to catch the 5 o'clock flight. And they gave her a warm time, and if they was looking correctly, they could see the bandages on her arm. You understand? But what happened? The lady gave her a warm time and told her to get her papers together, and she got her papers together. And when she came back to her, then she's saying, "I'm trying on a 5 o'clock flight." They just came out of the hospital. So she gave her such a hard time that she ended up on the late flight. And when the supervisor asked the staff, "Why is this lady going on a late flight? Why didn't she go on the 5 o'clock flight?" And what her remark was to the supervisor, she chose the 9 o'clock flight. She rushed to the airport to try to get the 5 o'clock flight. She was on time. The woman wouldn't put her on. And apparently there was 3 empty seats, the 4 empty seats on Cayman Airways coming back to Cayman that particular evening. Really and truly, Austin, when it comes to sickness, no one has any control over it.
Sure.
And not because you're not in a wheelchair doesn't mean that you're not sick. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yes, ma'am.
The hospital the van dropped her to the airport. And she goes in there to try to get on the 5 o'clock flight. Didn't want to go into deep details. Had the letter from the doctor and everything. And when the supervisor asked the worker, "Why did the lady go on the late flight? Why did she go on the 5 o'clock flight?" You know? She told her she chose to go on the 9 o'clock flight. She did not, and I have proof of that.
Okay.
But I would like you guys to look into that.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much indeed. Certainly, I think, well, certainly I and the government have put in place the exercise of improving customer service, and you'll notice this with certainly the customer service kiosks that are placed at key areas, customs, the airport, immigration, various service providers, and we're asking obviously the key stakeholders, what was your experience like in utilizing this government service? Was it good? Was it poor? Was it satisfactory? Was it below average, etc.? So as part of the Deputy Governor's goal of establishing a premier civil service, a world-class civil service, delivering on these key services, customer service is number one. It ranks extremely important, and efforts are underway to improve our customer service delivery across the island. I'm not familiar with the incident in which the caller is referring to, but certainly, if it is our counter that this occurred at in Miami, then again there are questions about how the customer sensitivities might otherwise play into it. There might be some questions that needed to be addressing if the facts are as the caller has just shared them with us. I don't doubt her for a second, other than to say that whilst not familiar with it, I take on board her point, particularly persons who are traveling with medical injuries or illness or otherwise. Again, I think the national airline does a phenomenal job in most cases at delivering on customer service and delivering on care and attention to all of the passengers that fly on it. I would hope to think that this incident was an isolated incident, but I would certainly look into it on her behalf, and I thank the caller for sharing it with me.
All right. With that, let's just pause quickly and take a short break. When we come back, opportunity to continue our discussion with Mr. Austin Harris. Please stay tuned for the record.
Did you hear that Vant Motors has your sale going on now? And you get your choice on the money you'll save on your new car or truck?
My sale? My choice? Really?
Yeah! And they have lots of cars on sale. Some up to $7,000 off.
Sounds pretty good.
It gets even better. You can choose to take the full discount, or you can get some or all of it as cash back.
Extra cash back would be great.
Exactly! And you can even use the savings to extend your warranty or service plan so you'll drive worry-free for years longer.
Another good idea.
If you want to upgrade with something like a new roof rack or backup camera, you can choose that too.
Wow, I get to choose?
Yeah, that's why it's your sale, your choice. Going on now at Vant Motors on Walkers Road, while stocks last.
Not all insurance is created equal, but who has the time to shop around? Take the guesswork out of your insurance coverage with Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Let us match you with the best coverage to suit your needs at a price to suit your wallet. Plus, get superior customer service from dedicated claims professionals to ensure speedy claims processing. Get your insurance through Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Are you kidding me?
What's wrong?
I ran out of my meds and I have an interview in about an hour.
Why not call CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy? They'll be able to help.
You think so?
Absolutely. Their pharmacists are brilliant for fast, efficient and professional service.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. We strive to make your health our concern. We recognize the complexities of pharmaceuticals and the need to personalize your care. That is why we offer personalized one-on-one counseling. Call us today or visit our website at caymanpharmacy.com.
Attention Breeze Fusion fans and supporters, registration is now open for the 12th annual Grand Cayman Breeze Fusion 5K Walk Run. We're calling on you to help us in raising funds for the NCVO and for the John Gray High School Musical Department. Registration is only $15 for adults if registered by September 30th. The walk run will take place on Saturday, November 3rd at the Smith's Bacadeer in Grand Cayman. But you must be registered by September 30th to take advantage of the lower fee. Visit CaymanActive.com to register today or stop by Radio Cayman on Elgin Avenue.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Orit Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us as we had the opportunity to continue speaking with Mr. Austin Harris. He uses the title in MLA for Prospect, huh?
Yes, indeed.
That's a beautiful little place. Man.
It is a gorgeous constituent. You should come down there and hang out with us sometime.
Sometimes I get invited to come across there.
You should. You should. Prospect is beautiful and getting more and more beautiful with each passing day. Certainly with its sister constituency, which sits on the border, Red Bay. We are one, and we're doing some fantastic things in those constituencies. Just a quick comment, Sterling, and I did not ask your last caller of it, but what would help me in getting the details of what that last caller mentioned in terms of the person being given somewhat of a hard time from a customer service perspective, if she would share with you the flight details, the date that the travel took place, and in particular if she may also have the name of the individual. I wouldn't want her to share that information on the open airwaves, but if she would WhatsApp you or otherwise share those details, then certainly it would help me to get the answers to what actually occurred.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully that caller will be able to share that with us. Certainly give us a call off here, and that way we get a chance to be able to drill down and particularly identify it, get it addressed, so that it's not a repeat circumstance.
Well, again, I mean, I pledge myself to follow up on it because the topic in which you're speaking of customer service and the customer service delivery is important to me. And I do believe it's important to our unity government. Certainly it has been an important factor of the national flag carrier, not just under this administration, but, as we say in this country, forever. And it's one of the things that I'm most proud of the national airline for is their customer service and how they treat people, whether you're a returning resident or otherwise. But certainly, I think the incident that the caller is referring to, if we know the date of the travel and the name of the person, that'll help me and other people, find out what occurred specifically, and if there were mistakes that were made. It's an opportunity to ensure that they don't happen again.
And the thing is, we probably are aware that I use the word flight attendants. Hopefully, that's not improper. But the 50th anniversary, their reunion is coming up.
That's right. And
for many of us, for me as a youngster traveling, sort of independent of the family, these again primarily they were mostly ladies, but they knew my family, knew my sisters, but the same respect, courtesy, care, attention that they extended to me as a youngster, they extend to everybody else. As an adult coming back, somebody's seen people who were there, that professionalism.
Yes.
So that level of care and attention, personalized service, it was natural, and it's something that makes the Cayman product, that hospitality, synonymous with welcoming, friendly, open, hospitable. sort of thing that we want to make sure that is inculcated in all of us.
That's right.
So whether we're on, the tourism end from a hotel or an airline, or whether we're in a bank, from our international clients or that teller on the front line, it's important.
Yes.
All right.
I want to continue. We were talking, of course, about the improvements that were being made to Owen Roberts International Airport, the improvements that were recently made to the Charles Cook Arnold International Airport. And one of the things that has been created as a result of government's investment in these key infrastructure assets is that it has encouraged the private sector to also make a similar investment, particularly as it relates to stayover tourism. Right now we have 3 separate private sector groups with plans to develop 3 new hotels here in the Cayman Islands. And of course that will serve towards increasing our room stock. Because, when we look at the rather stagnant numbers on the stayover side, part of it has to do with the need for a more efficient airport, the need for an expanded airport, baggage claim, etc., so that we can transition larger numbers, both carriers and passengers and their luggage, but also account for the necessary border protection and security aspects. So the renovations that are ongoing at Owen Roberts International Airport and are expected to be completed by early 2019 will go a long way to increasing our stayover numbers. But even with a renovated and larger airport, in order to increase our stayover numbers, as I explained to another caller in another program, we need to be able to offer a place for these tourists and increase in numbers for them to stay. And that has been one of the reasons that has restricted our growth in this sector for a great many years. But certainly the government signaling its renovations on its major airports has also signaled confidence to the private sector investor that says, you know what, now we're willing to put some additional monies into key national infrastructure such as hotels. And those 3 hotels will not just focus on the 7 Mile Beach corridor, but will also extend itself out as far as Bodden Town through the prestigious Mandarin Oriental Hotel, which again, I think with that combination of increased room stock combined with the efficiencies and the ability to transit up to, I think it's 2.5 million stayover passengers vis-a-vis the Owen Roberts International Airport, those 2 factors will work hand in hand to increasing our market share in stayover tourism, which you get no argument from me. It is obviously the primary focus and a prize focus, if not a crucial area to our overall tourism market. But as you know, the government has also signaled its willingness to take the hard, sometimes necessary decisions to secure our future in the cruise sector as well. And whilst this discussion will, I anticipate, be an ongoing one, and happy to engage anyone on it, it is being done with the purpose to secure ourselves in a sector that so far we're doing very well at, but the acknowledgement that we are one of the few jurisdictions in the Caribbean region that do not have a port, and all of our competitors do. And we see, whether it be in our present era or in the future state, that ships are passing us by. And I gave the analogy last week that we are losing out, I believe, estimate on the low end, about $1 million a week in potential economic uplift. And when I consider the facts of the BRIA report, which also outline the importance of piers, is that 4,400 Caymanians derive a direct economic impact and uplift from the cruise industry. That's 4,400 families that will be negatively impacted if we don't put in this infrastructure. But the government also intends simultaneously to increasing or improving the docking facilities for cruise. We will also be looking at enhanced cargo facilities, which, when completed, will have a necessary knock-on effect in terms of cost of living. By enlarging our crucial cargo dock, we positively impact the cost of living, and I'll tell you why. Whilst we are presently seeing larger cargo vessels, larger cruise ships bypass our jurisdiction because we don't have docking facilities, we also witness, and I just recently discovered this, again, 15 months, you learn a lot, that we are also being bypassed by larger cargo vessels coming out of South and Central America. These larger cargo vessels are carrying, whether it be food stocks, seafood, and other, items necessary for life. What they're doing is these larger cargo vessels coming out of South and Central America, bypassing Grand Cayman, going to the port of Miami. Then they're offloading that cargo onto smaller vessels, only to have those smaller vessels come back to Grand Cayman. That process is adding another increased level of shipping costs, which necessarily impacts the overall cost of those items by the time they hit their shelves. So one of the benefits of improving our cargo facilities and enhancing those cargo facilities in order to accept larger cargo ships will be to cut out one of those unnecessary steps. So now we're able to take the merchandise as it comes straight out of South and Central America rather than having to pay the additional cost of go to Miami, then transfer ships, then bring them here. There are incremental cost increases that we never see that occur along the way that would be potentially eliminated by the inclusion or the ability to accommodate larger cargo vessels. And I believe, and the government believes, that when we eliminate these extra costs, we reduce the shipping costs, which then lends itself to reducing the overall cost of goods entering the Cayman Islands. And that means an opportunity to lower that cost of living.
Right. Now, with respect to those cargo, whether it's foodstuffs or building supplies or what have you, coming out of Central and South America, logistically, we would be able to do that as opposed to having to do what we do now, whether it's through Miami Tampa or some other port. They would be able to come here.
Yes.
It wouldn't be any issues. What about our local shipping companies and how they would be impacted?
Well, there will always be an opportunity for the local companies. I mean, we have a number of ships that certainly visit the Cayman Islands already, and they come out of the port of Miami, Houston, or otherwise. That business will continue. But when I look at the changing demographics of the world, and that is, cruise lines are getting bigger, so too are cargo vessels. They're getting larger, and that is being done to accommodate need. And when it was shared with me that the same loss of potential revenue that we're experiencing from the cruise side of things, we're also experiencing an increased cost of merchandise, building materials, in particular foods, seafoods, and otherwise, and we're adding another layer of cost by causing ships to bypass us, only to come back towards us. Then we start to see the economics of how the cost of living in this country is derived. And like I said, I didn't know this 15 months ago, but certainly now we have an appreciation that with enhanced cargo facilities that will go hand in hand with enhanced cruise facilities, we are creating opportunities to lower the cost of living in this country by being able to cut out one of those key steps. Now, again, that won't impact the smaller shipping companies majorly, but it will improve our access to food stock, to building materials and otherwise, and hopefully reduce the costs associated with that shipping.
All right. I want to ask you more about the cargo, but Mr. Harris, got a couple of callers online.
Sure.
Let's go to our phones. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm fine. Good morning, Councillor Harris.
Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for your call.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, sir. And yourself?
Great. First, let me commend you and your government, or the government, for taking that meeting to the BRAC. It was very, very enlightening to see that. I was very elated to see the school children attended that meeting.
Yes, sir.
I was there. I spent 3-4 days over in the BRAC.
Yes, I saw you. It was good to see you as well.
You saw me at a long distance. I know that, but we're still friends.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, that's got rid of that. But it was very nice to see the school children attend that meeting. And I mean, from 1968, I was still in school. So, you know, I was glad. And like I said, I commend you all for having a meeting over there.
Yes, sir.
The BRACA's well appreciated, even though none of them will get on the radio and call in. So thank you all for coming up there to express, you know, to show them what the LA, how the LA is run. And about our infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
Austin, can I call you Austin?
Of course you can.
Okay. We have to show the global world, or whatever they are, that we are serious about tourism.
Yes, sir.
And we cannot go along having dilapidated infrastructures. And, you know, we have to build our infrastructure, bring them up to par with the rest of the world.
Yes.
Like I said, we have to show them we are serious about tourism.
That's right.
So that is my take on that. And that's all I'm going to say about the infrastructure. We got a great airport going on up there. I'm happy about it. No, one more question. What about the restaurants? Where are the restaurants going? Because when I go through there, I see no immediate restaurant areas.
Sorry, in Owen Roberts you're referring to?
At the Owen Roberts Airport, yes, sir. Sorry, the Owen Roberts Airport.
As I understand it, I know, and this is from seeing some of the plans, there will be a VIP lounge that's going to go on the second floor, and I believe there will be also located on the second floor some areas where at least I think at last check I thought there may be as many as 2 restaurants scheduled to go in there. But as I understand the plans, they're going to go on the second floor.
Great. I would hope in at least 4.
Yes,
given the competition.
Well, it could be much more. I'll be honest with you. Obviously, because I'm not attached to the Ministry of Tourism. It's not a subject that I'm, that I'm as familiar with as perhaps I am with human resources, immigration, and community affairs. But that said, I have seen some of the basic plans, and I'm excited. I think Owen Roberts Airport will benefit from this new renovation and injection, and certainly to your point, it will definitely demonstrate that we're serious about tourism, in particular creating the necessary infrastructure so that we can grow our overall stay-over tourism, which has always been and will ever be our key bread and butter in this country.
Absolutely. And, tourism was one of our first industries.
Yes, sir.
We were founded on tourism.
Yes,
and
sir.
for now to try to kick it in the teeth and say we shouldn't improve our services or our infrastructures to build our services further on for the future.
Yes.
It's something else, really.
Sure it is.
I don't think people really looking down the road. They're not looking in the future. Some people are shallow-minded when it comes to, increasing our services.
True.
Anyway, that's all. I'll let you go. And thanks.
You're always welcome, sir. Thank you very much for your comments and your questions.
All right, thank you very much, sir. And Mr. Harris, we have another caller. Hey, good morning. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, Sterling and Mr. Austin. You're talking about the hotel and the airport. I would like you to elaborate on some of the entertainment that these visitors going to get when they come to the island, and if we're going to increase taxes, tour buses, and so forth to get these guys where they have to go. What is the show and tell comparing to the turtle farm and the dolphins and the hell rocks and the stingray and so forth? Is anything in the making to entertain these guys while they come to the Cayman, or it is what it is right now? Because building 4 hotels more on the island, practically coming from Seven Valley to Georgetown, and then one going to Bordentown, I understand, and I just would like to know, how it's going to be spread out, how it's going to be organized when it comes to entertaining these visitors when they come to the Cayman.
Sure.
And I'll leave you at that.
Sure, absolutely. Whilst I can't state specifically, what the additional plans include, but certainly when we look at the enhanced facilities, both of an airport and a seaport, what it does is, number one, it increases the volume of the tourists. So obviously we've now increased the number of persons coming through both the seaport and the airport, and that will have its economic uplift, which will benefit the tour operators, the taxi operators, the water sport operators, the hotels, the restaurants, etc. But part and parcel to both of the callers' comments, that if we're serious about tourism, not only do we have to invest in our key infrastructure, but that investing in key infrastructure will create the conditions that will encourage investment from private sector for the development of other areas. The 3 hotels, which will, of course, provide the means of accommodating this increase of up to as much as 2 million plus stayover visitors every year. The increased volume and spend at some of the key sites, the Turtle Farm, Stingray City, some of the otherwise cultural and heritage sites, I believe will also prompt further investment to enhance those tourism attractions. And I do know of at least 2 different sets of new attractions that will be part and parcel to the cruise berthing facilities, based on, again, these are Caymanians who realize that when you increase the volume, now you're increasing an opportunity to provide attractions that will benefit from this increased volume. So they're taking a risk, saying, well, yes, it's nice that we have some of the existing attractions, but what about the new attractions? So I can say confidently to that caller that new attractions will be created as a result of it. And this is what I identify, particularly in my, if you will say, about face on the whole cruise berthing initiative, because I recognize the potential it represents, not only for Caymanian jobs, but for Caymanian ownership in some of the attractions that will be developed in order to accommodate and to facilitate that increase in volume that we will receive on the cruise side. But if we accept that there's going to be an increased volume on the cruise side, then we must also accept there's going to be an increased volume on the stayover side, and we must be able to provide resources and activities for that crowd to participate in. I mean, we use the Jamaica Falmouth example, for example. You know, I've heard people argue that, well, Falmouth has a dock, but obviously, you know, that hasn't benefited, you know, their cruise business. Well, it's not just the dock. You have to take the dock in tandem with the attractions that are on the outside. And if we don't continue to keep pace by investing in those attractions, again, we talk about our staple attractions, which I believe the increased volume will increase the potential revenue these attractions receive, and that will promote further development. But also that increased volume will create opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities that can be owned by Caymanians to develop new attractions. And that's good for those Caymanians. That's good for our Caymanian economy. And that's also very good for people like the last caller, the tour operators, the taxi operators. In terms of, are there any plans to increase taxes or fees? I think this government, certainly in conjunction with the previous administration, stood on a mantra of no new taxes. Because what we don't want to do is increase the cost of living unnecessarily. So there are no plans that I'm aware of to increase those fees. But I believe where the taxi operators and the tour operators and the water sport operators and everyone else who benefits from tourism will be from the increased volumes. They're going to have more business rather than less business, and hopefully that will help to fill the pockets a bit easier than simply saying we're going to increase the fees and the taxes and make it a more expensive jurisdiction, because I believe that oftentimes will counteract the positive impacts. And again, we are already considered an expensive jurisdiction, by comparison to some of our competitors. So again, we want to try to keep those costs as reasonable as possible, accepting the fact that there is a certain standard that is the Cayman Islands, and that standard has not served to be a deterrent, but in fact, quite the contrary, has served to attract people to our shores.
Indeed. With that, let's pause quickly and take a short break. When we come back, more For the Record.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Young Caymanian Leaders Foundation announces the names of the 5 finalists for the 2018 Young Caymanian Leadership Awards. They are Casey Mobley, Kimberly Connolly, Samuel Young, Stacey Scott, and Wilbur Welcome. The committee revealed the names after, quote, careful, in-depth review of the nominations. A number of Republicans in the U.S. have said the vote on U.S. President Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh should be paused while allegations of sexual assault are properly heard. It comes after Christine Blasey Ford accused Mr. Kavanaugh of attacking her. The allegation, which Mr. Kavanaugh has denied, emerged days before the Senate Judiciary Committee votes on the post. And the International Monetary Fund has warned that a no-deal Brexit on the World Trade Organization terms would entail, quote, substantial costs for the UK economy. The IMF said that all likely Brexit scenarios would entail costs, but a disorderly departure would lead to, quote, a significantly worse outcome. The challenges in getting a deal done were, quote, daunting, it said. The IMF expects Britain's economy to grow by 1.5% in both 2018 and 19 if a broad Brexit agreement is struck. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Orit Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm honored to be able to sit here and, same seat that Mr. Orit occupies. So, thanks. Trust that, things goes well as we speak to Mr. Horston Harris. Sir, with respect, we do have another caller.
Absolutely, sir.
Hey, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning to you, sir.
I'm fine. Morning, Mr. Harris. How are you?
I am very well, sir. Always a pleasure to hear from you.
Good, good. What I'm going to say this morning, I hope it will be well digested and understood.
Sure.
Dock or no dock, Cayman Islands, we are on our way out. Austin, tell me something. I knew you for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You used to be talk show host, and you was a very active guy in our society.
Yes, sir.
What's really happening to this island that every square inch, a little bit on the extreme side, every square inch of land must be cleared, and all you can see is concrete going up in pavements. I mean, we just like a gigantic cruise ship, nothing bigger. Where are we going with all of this development?
Yes.
At the end of July, I think everyone had to have their papers in for their license or whatever. That was advertised for quite some time. Do we have a limited amount of workforce in this island that can service, whether it's tourism or whatever field that they're in? Where are we going with all of this thing, Austin? There's just too much going on into this island. What I want to say, I dealt into the tourism industry for the last, could be 25 to 30 years. When you get this place on a busy time that you got 5 or 6 or 7 ships, I can tell you, and other operators can vouch to what I'm saying is true. You get a lot of disgruntled people commenting, well, we were into the Cayman Islands and we didn't get any service, and it's just a whole bunch of people walking up and down. We couldn't get attended to. There wasn't this and wasn't that. Why, in God's name, do we have or we don't have a government that can say, look, not everybody can see this place at the same time, the same year. In my opinion, if we are of any character at all, we should say to the world, you want to come to the Cayman Islands, but you have to wait because we can only accommodate a certain amount of people at any given time, and we want to make sure that those people are properly serviced, properly attended to. But it seems like the more the merrier. So what we're saying about the cruise ships, my friend, what are we going to show them? Buildings, shops, in all sorts which they got back home? I mean, there's nothing, your natural attraction, just deal on that for 1 second, then I'm going to get off.
Sure.
Because I am so upset to see what's happening here about a free enterprise. Mm-hmm. We should be like other countries. You have to get permission to clear the land. They have inspectors from the Environment Department going to see if you're going to clear the land. If you're going to clear it, they will say what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. You have to have special trees and landscaping put back in place. But no, all I ever say in the last year or two, oh yes, the economy is booming, land clearing, country going up, nothing for the people to see except shops and buildings. I want to say this now. The younger people might be entertained by the clubs and the beach and so on, but middle-aged, elderly people, you know what they like to see? Taking a tour, taking a drive and seeing your vegetation and your quaint little places. Oh, but that's not good enough. That's antiquated. We have to put new and modern things. My friend, I could go on from Genesis to Revelation, but I hope what I said this morning will be understood in the proper manner in which I mean it, and I said that there's too much going on into this island for the size, and I hope that somebody will speak out about it and see what's happening, because to me, it is very disheartening to see what's happening in this island. So I want to thank you guys for listening to me, and I want to wish you all the best and a pleasant day. Thank you.
All right,
Indeed.
thank you, sir.
I thank the caller for his comments, his observations. Certainly, I would agree with him in part that, again, even in my short 46 years of life, I have seen the changes significantly take place on Grand Cayman from the days of when I was a boy to where they are today. And in particular, my recent visit to the Sister Islands in Cayman Brac really took me back into time. And yes, there was a moment that I too missed the smallness and the quaintness. I missed the single carriageways that I grew up with, you know, one lane northbound, one lane southbound, and it didn't really create a problem for us. But the reality is that our economic model that we talked about earlier on, that horse has already left the gate. In Grand Cayman, we have discovered that the way our economic model works comes from development. If we are not developing, if we are not building, then the economic growth that creates jobs and opportunities that benefit our people come to a grinding halt. Mm-hmm. And nothing represents this more than when we look back at 2012, 2011, you know, when we had certainly 2007, 2008, the financial crisis that saw a slowdown in the world economy, and it was felt here in the Cayman Islands. 2012, unemployment amongst Caymanians reached a record high of 10.5%. This is a direct result in the slowdown of our economic, how should we say, prosperities in Grand Cayman. Do I like the rate in which Grand Cayman is growing? To be honest, not necessarily, but unfortunately that horse has already left the gate. Mm. But likewise, when I see from a tourism perspective, and again, this is something that I also rediscovered once visiting the Sister Islands, that we are placed in a unique position that the economic model that has sustained and prospered Grand Cayman does not necessarily have to be the same economic model that is utilized for the Sister Islands. Quite to the contrary, I believe when we look at the Sister Islands and the aesthetic values of the natural landscape, the bluff, and everything else, we have an opportunity to cater to a different style of tourist, that being the eco-friendly tourist, and I think there's a lot of room for that expansion. But that said, we also still need to create some modern infrastructure on the Sister Islands to complement both of those, and I think there is room for both. But going back to the economic model, and yes, I understand the position on which the caller is coming from, But our economic model is one that requires development, and that development is tied to jobs and growth and opportunities for Caymanian ownership and better jobs. As a result of that, we had the Labour Force Survey Spring 2018 tabled in the Legislative Assembly at the last sitting. And why does that matter? Well, we now see we've turned a corner. Unemployment amongst Caymanians is now sitting at 5.3%, nearly halved from what it was in 2012. That's against a backdrop of a overall Caymanian labor force of some 19,900 people in a population of 63,000 people. He asked the question, do we have enough Caymanians that will service the growing demands on our economy? And I think the Labor Force Survey identifies in evidence that yes, we do. And if we continue our sustainable development, our planned development, no, we will not say yes to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that says I got a business idea, because that is not sustainable. But certainly, I think the nostalgic viewpoint of seeing Grand Cayman return to the island, perhaps it was in my youth, the simple, cold, hard truth of the matter is those days are gone. That horse has already left the gate. But it is not necessarily bad. That economic development, that economic growth has also taken total unemployment down from 4.1% to 3.4%. All of these things, all of that development has an economic offspin as it relates to opportunities for Caymanians and Caymanian families, opportunities for economic growth for our country. And that is the economic model in which we have created for ourselves. And I don't believe, as the caller says, that our future is bleak. I don't believe that our tourism is dead because perhaps of our development. We do have an opportunity to pause and reflect on that growth. We do have an opportunity to, when we look at the sister islands, to say, what can we do different whilst preserving some of that natural environment? And whilst I believe there is an attractiveness to Grand Cayman as a tourism destination for a significant number of tourists, I also believe we have an opportunity to take into account the remarks of that last caller, to preserve a little, using perhaps the experience in the Grand Cayman model as a guide to say, well, what's wrong with having it both? And I believe we can have it both ways because we are three islands, and fundamentally we can create three separate economies based on the needs of those three islands, and I think we are well on our way of getting there.
All right, Mr. Harris, we have a couple of callers as we go to our phones. Hey, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, MLA Harris.
Good morning, Billy.
And good morning, Mr. DWAYNE.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Harris, I have heard you and I've heard the government boast about these new hotels coming. And when I go back and I read, starting from the Laventhal and Howard report on tourism, the 1992 Coopers and Librand, and as you come forward and you look at all these, the way things are repeated in those early reports, you made a statement just a while ago that not everybody that comes, not every plan is going to be approved. What all of those plans, and going back to the 1975 draft development plan for the country, said you need the plan. You need to have a measuring stick by which you can do and understand how you're going to develop, what are your objectives, what are the threats, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, so people understand and know and can see where we plan to go. Then you have something to discuss. But because we have no physical development plan, you can put a quarry in the middle of a residential zone. You can do all the other madness. It's all down to the discretion of those that are put in authority. Tie that in and marry it with the word corruption. Because we try to bring in the standards in public life law. But no, we can't start that up because too many people making too much money. Also corruption that's going on. And at the same time, this is all built on the back of cheap labor, cheap imported labor that work, many of them at the bottom of the totem pole, and especially in the tourism industry. And don't tell me about the bartenders and how much they make. That's a myth. That's the smallest amount of the people. But the people that work in the real labor of the tourism industry, and we have $6 an hour. These people that are working for $6 a Caymanians that do go out, they can go to NAU, and if they don't earn $3,000 a month, then they can get rent, electricity, water, free health care, a whole list of different things they can get. We're now spending over $100 million subsidizing people. So the model that we had, where Cayman depended, when you had like the Brian Butlers, when they built a structure, they paid duty on it. Our biggest developer in this country is subsidized millions and millions and millions of dollars in these islands for the next 25 years. This is why our economy, it's a little bubble right now, but this is why long term we're in the mess we're in. And when you talk about the unemployment for Caymanians, when you have 25,000, 30,000 people on work permits, you should have zero. And you should have zero underemployment, because you have a lot of Caymanians that are working way below the degrees that they hold and the experience that they have and what they can do. But because they're competing with cheap imported labor. We need to take our minimum wage for people to live adequately in these islands, $10 an hour. Anything under that. And our people are living substandard. They're going to go to NAU, and the rest of the people have to subsidize that, the rest of the other Caymanians. So I would ask you, when the issue of planning comes up, let us have a proper development plan, a proper tourist plan. Bring in Cayman Brac under a development plan, because the politicians from over there wanted nothing to do with the one that Mr. Kurt worked so hard to do in 2001, but then he was shot down on November the 8th. That disastrous day when the coup occurred. And he had developed a proper development plan again, just like we had a proper one in 1975. And I don't hear anything from the PPM, the UDP, or the Unity, or whatever they want to call their glorified name. Nobody's talking about a proper development plan. Why? Because it was, oh man, we got to leave the discretion. The big man gives the authority. That's where it's all controlled by. And the minimum wage, please support taking that to $10 an hour, sir. People cannot live on $6 an hour in our island. And I'd like to hear your answer on both of those. Will you promote a proper physical development plan, a proper minimum living wage for our island?
Yes, sir.
$10 an hour. The reports are there. Mr. Lem and his committee. You don't got to do a whole pile of more studies. That was done already. It's just a case of who will support it, who will object to it. Because you're bringing in bigger hotels, and all you're going to do is import more cheap labor, and it's going to be on the backs of Caymanians that can't get a living wage. Those people who live, like on Pooh Road, the ad in the paper, 3-bedroom can sleep 12. People advertising place for rent. Caymanians don't want to live 4 to a bedroom. They want to live, not exist. God bless you, sir.
Blessings, man. Thank you very much.
God bless you also. And I want to take, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Billy for his questions. But I'm a little disappointed because, in his comments, I hear dripping from his lips the sarcasm that is generally otherwise the general concept of government. First of all, he talks about our glorified name for the unity government. I don't know, but since when is the word unity seen as a bad thing? Right now we have a government that is made up of the two dominant parties plus the independents. In other words, we have all of the parties in Cayman's political landscape sitting around a single table, arriving at the decisions which we believe will act in the best interest of the people of these Cayman Islands. They said it couldn't be done, but it is being done, and it's working very well. So I don't consider the word unity to be glorified, but in fact something to aspire towards. And by all indications, we've achieved it. So that's that as it relates to the makeup of our government and how we define ourselves in unity, because we are a representation of everyone. Secondly, he talks about the standards in public life, and of course he throws in the word corruption. It's interesting. I was a good man 15 months ago, but ever since becoming a representative of the people or a politician, I've since added the word corrupt to my list of accomplishments or to my personality just by simply taking on the role of a politician. And I think that's a bit of a misnomer. I think it's a bit of an exaggeration, but it is what it is. I want to say I agree with the caller. The Standards in Public Life law was agreed upon unanimously by members of the Legislative Assembly, and the holdups as it relates to the implementation of the Standards in Public Life, perhaps unknown to the caller, has nothing to do with the politicians. The politicians have no compunction whatsoever of being held to the higher level. In other words, you want to see our official registry updated once a year, we'll give it to you. You want a full accounting of, our financial and otherwise personal interest, we do that, and it's there. I certainly do that. But the problem with the Standards in Public Life Bill and why it has been held up in terms of its implementation deals not so much with the public servants, the politicians that are elected, but the civil society that we call upon to sit on our boards. Things like SEMA, things like the Health Insurance Commission, things, like the Education Council. The Standards in Public Life Bill law was designed, I think, in many cases to address the issue of the perceived corruption of politicians. But it also impacts the persons who take up membership on many of our civil boards. These are private citizens volunteering their time to the state, to the country, to provide vital services and oversight. But many of those, some of those who perhaps attract direct and personal liability, for example, for decisions taken by that board, persons are uncomfortable with. Private citizens are uncomfortable with having to outline the clubs and associations, fraternities in which they are members of. They are not the political directorate, they are the civil directorate, but because of concerns that apply to both sets, whether you're a civil board or whether you're a politicians, are covered under the Standards in Public Life Bill. And the delays in the implementation of the Standards in Public Life law, I keep calling it a bill, but the standards outlined in that law are not being curtailed by politicians, but perhaps because of issues related to civil society. But we're working our way through it. I'm on the committee, the Standards in Public Life Committee, which is seeking to see that law introduced and implemented as it was unanimously voted on by the members of the Legislative Assembly, and I fully support it. The caller talked about the absence of a plan. I don't disagree with him that there has been, for some time, a noted absence in an overall widespread development plan for all three Cayman Islands, but I do have confidence that the Minister of Commerce and Planning, the Honourable Joseph Yu, and his team are working with a roadmap in which includes the sustainable development plan that the government oftentimes refers to. Would it hurt us to publish some information? Would it hurt us to perhaps work towards a national infrastructure development plan? I don't think that's a bad idea at all, and I think it's a good suggestion. But we have other plans. He talked about tourism. Right now, the Minister of Tourism, the Honourable Deputy Premier, Moses Kirkconnell, is out there talking about the National Tourism Plan, 2018-2023, which is generating interesting feedback and discussions in stakeholder groups in terms of what do we want our tourism product to look like over the next 5 years. Some of that is inclusive of the new hotels, which are necessary. The caller talked about what we give away in incentives, to build these structures. Well, again, something that perhaps in another life I would have joined him in the criticism, but then I realized that The government cannot build everything. When we attempt to build everything, that leads us down the road of borrowing and financing debt, which certainly led to our financial calamity, or certainly didn't improve on it in 2008. But when we give incentives to build, in this instance, 3 new hotels, the government's objective is twofold. Number one, we need the infrastructure. We need to be able to have the extra rooms so that we can grow our stay-over tourism market, so that persons can spend $1,000 a week as opposed to $100 a day. And again, we accept that stay-over has always been our bread and butter. But where the country derives its income is not so much in the building materials it takes to erect that edifice or structure, but when we can then derive the revenue that is associated with the accommodation tax. For every room that is rented, the government makes a fee on top of it. But until that room is completed, until that building or edifice is completed and persons can in fact rent those rooms, or on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, or whatever, we're not gaining anything. So for a government that does not believe in new borrowings, does not believe in getting into further financial debt by building these structures ourselves, we must, and it's standard business, to offer incentives for the private sector and otherwise to do so. We do that willingly because the revenue, we want those structures built quickly so that we can then begin to derive the economic benefit of having them in place without having to pay the excessive $300+ million cost of having to build them. So that is why incentives, though perhaps distasteful to the casual eye, there is a method to the madness. And that method is we need those structures. We don't want to pay for those structures, but we start earning money the minute those structures are able to be accommodated by persons. Finally, the caller talked about a minimum wage. I can tell him with every confidence that the government, the unity government, which I'm a part of, is looking seriously at this whole minimum wage discussion. We're even discussing, the context of minimum wage versus living wage, and we're weighing the pros and cons of that. We have to acknowledge, likewise, that even with the existing minimum wage, in many cases, Caymanians are not the ones who are directly benefiting from this, but perhaps the cheap imported labor that the caller is referring to, in large majority, they're the ones who benefit from it. Yes, minimum wage and its introduction has benefited Caymanians. There is no question about it. To which extent, which sector of the society is benefiting more? It's a question, I suppose it's, your opinion versus my opinion. But there are, to the caller's point, there is a recognition by the government that the present minimum wage is in need of an increase. What the value of that increase will be, again, needs to be determined. It needs to be determined both by the government, by the stakeholders, by the businesses that we depend on to create the jobs. Because, listen, government doesn't believe that, it has to be the employer of choice. And we've also seen the consequences of an ever-expanding government, which adds to the ever-expanding cost of living. We need private sector. We need private sector to create new jobs. And we need to create a balanced environment where their needs and our needs can be met in a degree of harmony. There will be an impact on the businesses in terms of increasing minimum wage, but also, as we discovered with the introduction of minimum wage, you may recall the conversations when minimum wage didn't exist and we were talking about it then. We had businesses saying, we're going to close down, you're going to force businesses out the door. None of those things happened. There will be pressure felt on one way or the other, but I will acknowledge to the caller that the government is looking at the subject of minimum wage and increasing that minimum wage. What that increase will be, well, is yet to be decided, but he certainly will not be kept in the dark in terms of, what that increase will be, because it will be, like all things are, a national discussion that we all will participate in. I hope I've answered his questions.
Indeed. With that, sir, I'm told we have to take a short break.
Sure.
All right, stay tuned. When we come back, more for the record.
Did you hear that Vant Motors has your sale going on now? And you get your choice on the money you'll save on your new car or truck?
My sale? My choice? Really?
Yeah, and they have lots of cars on sale, some up to $7,000 off.
Sounds pretty good.
It gets even better. You can choose to take the full discount, or you can get some or all of it as cash back.
Extra cash back would be great.
Exactly. And you can even use the savings to extend your warranty or service plan so you'll drive worry-free for years longer.
Another good idea.
If you want to upgrade with something like a new roof rack or backup camera, you can choose that too.
Wow, I get to choose?
Yeah, that's why it's your sale, your choice. Going on now at Vant Motors on Walkers Road, while stocks last.
A pharmacy is where you go for medicine and for the pharmacist's advice on how to take them. Here at CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, our pharmacists are trusted health professionals whose job is to help people receive the best results out of their medicine. They know exactly what's in your prescriptions and will be happy to answer any of your questions. You can be sure that our pharmacists will see that your medicine is at the right strength, in the right dose, and will check that you yourself know how to take them or use them properly. Come in today for a consultation with our pharmacist at CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Earth, fire, wind, water.
Harness the magic power of the four elements during the Miss Cayman Miss World pageant Saturday, September 29th at the Hartwell Theater. Be on hand to see who will wear the crown and represent the Cayman Islands at the Miss World pageant. Tickets are limited, so purchase them today at Rock Gorgeous, Back to Health, and Beyond Basics for $50 general and $75 VIP, which includes a cocktail. Doors open at 6. Show starts at 7:30. Cash bar is available.
Witness the magic.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Can you explain what a less than container load is for shipment and what your minimum charge is?
Sure. A less than container load, or LCL, is any overseas shipment that does not require the full space of a container. At Seaboard, we have great rates for small packages. Just let us know the dimensions of your package and we'll help you out from there.
Shipping shore to shore.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record. With Orit Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And truly, wonderful for the opportunity to be able to, through Radio Cayman, provide our listeners and our wider community with this level of access to our elected members of the Legislative Assembly. And we can speak to members of the government. In this case, an acting temporary minister. Can I say Honorable Austin Harris? Would that be improper?
Well, I think certainly for the next week, whilst carrying the title of temporary acting minister, maybe Honorable would attach itself to it. But I don't want to be presumptuous at all.
If they give you flag to tell this fellow made a mistake.
Austin works. When in doubt, Austin works. Because I'm still, as the country song says, I'm still a little bitty.
A little bitty? All right. Well, sir, with that, I know we've got a couple of things to I respect the time. I appreciate it. But in the interest of both, let's take one more call.
Yes.
Hey, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for sharing.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to
you,
Good morning,
Mom.
It's Alice May here.
Good morning, Miss Alice.
I'll try to be quick because I referred to Mr. Armand Morgan's call, and I really have to support what he said, just about all of what he said, so I won't repeat that. And then Mr. Billy Adam, a significant portion of his expressions too, I can support. Not everything, as Bill well knows. But a quick question. With our cruise berthing, we get so much per head, per passenger on the cruise ships. Is that it? Government gets a set fee for that, do they?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell me whether it's based on the amount of passengers on the cruise ship or just the ones who come off the ship?
As I understand it, we get paid a per passenger head tax based on the passenger manifest. So it doesn't matter if the person's, I think the numbers right now stand at about 80% of cruise passengers actually getting off the cruise ship. We receive a fee based on the manifested numbers.
Right. So if it's 4,000 on the cruise ship, we get
4,000
dollars.
That's correct. That's correct.
And that's a hefty thing, and I can understand government wanting to multiply that, get more ships and big ships, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But remember the saying, greed ain't your puppy. And that's what I'm afraid of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, what attractions do we have for the tourists? I know you said a couple more are coming on board.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say what those attractions will be?
I cannot at this stage because those discussions have
Right.
regrettably not been finalized. They're in the process. I'm anxious to share them. I think the wider audience will appreciate them because they will be attractions designed not just for the visitor, but certainly the resident will be able to access them as well.
Well, I'm hoping that the more rumors that I'm hearing of virtually, I'll just say an island or certainly a platform being erected out in the North Sound in the vicinity of, Stingray City, etc., and a sandbar. I hope that is just a pipe dream, that they're not going to be destroying what is there. We have such limited natural attractions, natural resources, that I just hope that, discretion will really reign in this instance. And another thing I think about, right now with the passengers coming off by tender, yes, it can be a bit rocky. You got to, bumping on a boat perhaps, maybe bigger boats, better tenders would work. But I see the hundreds and thousands, it seems, of the tourists now milling around the area there, Harbour Drive and that whole area. And it's pathetic to see them standing out there waiting to go on the tenders, yes. But they will still have to line up to get back onto the cruise ships on the pier and walk down the length of the pier. And I don't think that, for me, I don't like crowds. And I can't imagine tourists coming off of cruise ships wanting to be jostling elbow to elbow, fighting to get in the doors of the taxi cab or the bus or the stores that are on the waterfront or elsewhere. That there would be such a crowd, it would be, to me, a very unpleasant experience to say, oh, well, I went to Cayman, I got off, but the place was so crowded, I couldn't get to enjoy any of the activities or even go into the shops, because right now, on cruise days, when those shops are busy, it is not a pleasant experience for locals, but we want to make it pleasant for the cruisers, for our tourists. And I don't see overcrowding being pleasant at all. I had quite a number of points I wanted to say, but I realized time, in fact, you're over your normal time. So I guess I'll have to leave that until later. But I cannot envisage Cayman. I do not want Cayman to go back to the days it was. But I'm old enough. I'm 72, and I have no problem admitting my age. So I know what it was when tourism started and when the financial industry started. And I know the attraction that brought the people here, despite the mosquitoes and the lack of so many things, including telephones, they wanted to come to visit the Cayman Islands. But we have so little, if anything, left of what attracted visitors to our islands by air or by sea. So little. We know we have to move with the times. But please, we are killing the goose very fast that laid the golden egg. And it's much better to sort of get something today and leave something for tomorrow than gobble it all up today and then X years down the lane, there's nothing. We'll just have tons of cement buildings, no native trees, or anything that brought people here in the beginning. If they want Las Vegas, they can go to Las Vegas. That's easy for them. Americans, in particular, they are our main visitors, I think. But they don't need to leave the continent of North America to go and see these kinds of attractions. They were coming here to a Caribbean island, something different. And, of course, to crown it all, it was the warmth and welcoming care of Caymanians that drew these people here year after year, family after family, generation down the lane, that brought them here. Do we have anything like that left for them? There's nothing. Anyway, I will stop now because I appreciate the time I've been given. But all I want is continued good for the people of the Cayman Islands.
Sure.
That's what we all want.
Yes.
But we have to take stock and not look through rose-colored glasses and not be selling people the emperor's new clothes. You know, we can say things, words can say a lot of things, but the reality, we have to grasp reality. We have to be honest with ourselves and everyone. Thanks very much, and God bless you all and all in Cayman Islands and those who come and visit here as well.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Certainly, I want to thank the caller for her comments. I have a lot of time and respect for Miss Alice May, who I've known, frankly, all of my life. I want to state unequivocally that certainly while she wants what is best for our people, I want what is best for our people, and I believe that my desires are no different than the 18 other elected representatives who make up the Legislative Assembly and the governance of this country. Certainly, I can attest, whilst I cannot state what the position is or the motivations of perhaps members of the opposition, I can tell you that members of my 13-member unity government are exactly that. We want what is in the national best interest for our people, and not just for this 4-year term, but for much longer than that. We are not looking at this world through rose-colored lenses, but we are looking at the world, not only the one that we have in Grand Cayman, but certainly the competition that Grand Cayman faces as a jurisdiction within the region. And, you know, as I think the former Premier, now Speaker of the House, oftentimes once phrased it, we are not the only pretty girl on the block. We're not the only Caribbean destination with lovely people. We're not the only Caribbean destination with crystal clear waters and, you know, white sandy beaches. We are competing for that tourism dollar, and as we get more and more serious about tourism, that competition becomes, rather difficult. We want to talk about realities. Yes, whilst we derive an income from the ship manifest load, so if the ship has 4,000 people, we're deriving a fee for 4,000 people, whether they come off the ship or not. But right now, we are offloading on average 5,000 people over several hours, whereas berthing facilities will enable us to offload 5,000 people per hour. And with 2 piers and 4 ships, that's a maximum of up to 20, maybe even 25,000 passengers per hour. I've looked at again, I've been afforded this opportunity to see it firsthand. We talk about, the caller says, I don't like crowds. And certainly most people who, whether you're air traveling or cruise traveling, you don't like crowds. Where we don't see the crowds, but where it does have an impact on the cruise sector, is the crowds on that winding staircase leading down from the accommodation bridges down to the tender boats that often arrive on these cruise ships. The traffic jam that exists within the cruise jam itself acts as a deterrent for those cruise passengers actually getting off that ship in the first instance. So whilst we may be getting a head tax per cruise visitor, the real economic uplift is getting those passengers' souls on the ground and into the community, to the attractions, water sports and otherwise, where our Caymanians, again, according to BRIA, some 4,400 Caymanians derive a direct economic benefit from it. So the goal must be to offload and unload, for that matter, as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. We have discovered, and again, don't take my word for it, reports have indicated that with tendering, when those persons do come off, they're likely to come off once. When they go back on, they're not coming back on shore. Versus the ability of berthing or docking, they have the ability to exit the ship and enter the ship much easier without the delays. And therefore, it creates an opportunity where persons may come on and come off at their leisure without the crowds and the chaos that currently exists right now. So I believe that there is an opportunity with cruise berthing to attract even more persons off of that ship and into our shops, into our attractions and stores, provided income to our taxi operators who are going to take them to and fro, but also the wider Caymanian economic hands that will benefit from it. Again, I accept the fact that it is not a shared opinion amongst everyone else, but the opinions that I take today are based on opportunities that I have been given to experience it firsthand. So it's not something that someone is telling me. It is not just an opinion based on reports, which, by the way, I've read every single one of them. And I can tell you that not a lot of people have. They are tedious, but they do tell a tale. And when I consider the significant demands on this country's resources, when I look at specifically social welfare, in which I am directly involved in and have shared responsibility for the Ministry of Community Affairs, I can tell you that the revenue we derive, whether it be giving incentives to a hotelier to build a hotel so that we can start making money on the room tax once that room is completed, or whether it be creating the infrastructure facilities so that we can get as much as $1 million extra every week going into the hands of persons who derive a direct economic benefit from cruise tourism. I see that as a good thing. I see that as an important thing. And the revenue that we need to sustain ourselves as a country and to go from strength to strength are coming from these multiple aspects. If we want to stay prosperous, if we want to maintain the lifestyle, if you will, that we enjoy in the Cayman Islands by comparison to some other Caribbean jurisdictions, then there is a give and take. But I believe that give and take works in the national best interest. I believe that certainly the government has an obligation to both mitigate and protect our natural environment, but also likewise to protect the opportunities for its people. And that is their economic opportunities so that families can benefit from that economic prosperity through jobs and ownership. I just wanted to touch on one final thing because I know time is running out on us. One of the specific legislative changes that we were successful in achieving at the last Legislative Assembly sitting was an amendment to the Penal Code specific to how it relates to protecting our innocent children from sexual predators. It was a conversation that got started, perhaps I think, on the wrong foot because it was mistakenly taken to impact the actual physical act, which is not what the amendment to the Penal Code seeks to address. Currently, under the Penal Code, we have offenses such as rape, which carry a maximum offense of life imprisonment. We have offenses for defilement of girls under the age of 12, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years. We have an offense of defilement for a girl who is between 12 and 16 that carries a maximum sentence of 12 years. What we don't have, however, are specific areas of the law that deal with what is called grooming or the preparation of a child or young person leading to the physical act. And if we look at a very common case that is in the public domain of a certain coach, we see that the term of imprisonment or the penalty that was applied was based on the laws outlined in the ICTA law, the Information and Communication Law, and not necessarily contained under the Penal Code itself. The Penal Code Amendment Bill sought to address what sometimes happens before we get to the stage of actual physical contact, but where the predator otherwise conditions the child through communication in preparation for that physical act, which again, the offenses that I've listed previously and the maximum penalties, the Penal Code already provides for. But when we're looking at a person who establishes a connection, a remote relationship, if you will, these days that means, we're communicating via social media. We're communicating via online conversations. We're in chat rooms. We're in instant messaging. We're in WhatsApp. We're in text. And we did not have within our penal code separate offenses for the grooming or the communication of a sexual act, as we already have the penalties for the physical act. So now, as a result of the amendments made in the last Legislative Assembly sitting, we now have offenses in the Penal Code that relate to the communication of a sexual act, whether it be sending images, whether it be sending videos, whether there be, group chats or otherwise, there's an offense for the communicating of a sexual offense against a minor, as are there an offense for the actual physical act of committing a sexual offense against a minor. So we now have the opportunity, and certainly if the amendments that were just made in the Legislative Assembly were in place at the time of a specific coach, then that individual would have faced a penalty if he had pled guilty to a minimum of 4 years in prison, or 6 years if it had to go to trial. Also, the bill goes on to further enhance the penalties for persons who are in a position of trust. In other words, a teacher, a foster parent, a trainer, a supervisor, in the course of their role as someone in a position of trust, if they use that position of trust to commit an offense, then it would otherwise be considered under the law as an aggravated offense, and that would only enhance the penalties attached to it for that offense. I'm proud of this particular amendment because it sickens me to my stomach, some of the egregious acts that are done, crimes that are done against our children. And whilst we allow our judges discretion in the handing out of their penalties, I wanted to make it abundantly clear that whether it be rape or an indecent assault or defilement, we have significant penalties, more significant penalties than perhaps even our mother country in the United Kingdom does. Now we add to it the communication factor, which compounds the penalties that are applied to persons who would otherwise be defined as sexual predators. I campaign on the notion of protecting our children. And I know that every member of my unity government supports the amendments made in this penal code to fill those gaps that we recognize existed before, but now thankfully they do not. And I certainly want to thank the opposition for acquiescing and agreeing, because they too have children or grandchildren or otherwise, and we all 19 members believe the acts of crimes against children to be heinous. And whatever we can do as legislators to provide the mechanisms to the court to make the necessary decisions that can hold such deviance to the proper account of the law, then it shall be done. You and I have had this discussion before. In a perfect world, we would bypass the courts altogether and have a much more final sort of solution, but that is not the world we live in, and certainly we are a country of laws. And this amendment to the penal code seeks to strengthen our existing laws to protect our most innocent, and that is, of course, our children and our grandchildren. And I'm delighted to see it passed, and certainly it will seek to address what I think are the gaps that existed previously, that now gives judges a greater option to apply stringent penalties to those persons who would otherwise commit crimes against children.
Mr. Harris, thank you very much. And on behalf of our listeners who were called and trying to get you, I apologize. And you are a popular gentleman, so they wanted to engage you, so I do ask them to accept your apology. Thank you for
my pleasure.
Allowing us to go over extended time. Hopefully I don't create too many problems for Mr. O.C., but what I say, when the cat's away, the mice will play.
Indeed.
Fox for doing so as well, man.
Well, I thank you very much for your time and that of the studio here at Radio Cayman. I thank the callers who called up and asked, I think, a number of legitimate questions and created an opportunity for some feedback and some dialogue. I certainly will be back on this program, both for On the Record as well as the afternoon show Talk Today, as will be other members of the government. Something that we stated in the beginning, we're working on our communication, something that I'm glad to see is being rolled out more effectively. And again, I thank you most sincerely for accommodating me and for being a gentleman as you always are.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. In the words of Elvis Presley, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, listen, thank you all for joining us. Come back, if you don't mind, hearing me again right after the midday news and midday meditation. Same seat, same mic, same headset. I'll wear the same shirt as well.
There you go.
I even use the same pen, but different guests. Until then, be blessed.
For the Record is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking and pension needs, call or visit a Fidelity branch today. Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. And Cayman Pharmacy Group, with locations in West Base and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. And Seaboard Marine. With over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling Seaboard Marine at 949-4977.
Hey, are those new glasses on Will?
Yeah, we went to Optical Outlook. Wham, bam, easy exam. Finally an exam he could pass. And we have the glasses the next day. Easiest part of our back-to-school shopping for sure.
Book your child's eye exam today at Optical Outlook. Call 746-2020. Save 50% off a complete pair of glasses with any student eye exam. Now extended until September 28th. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook, located in the Caymanian Village. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating?
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger-licking good.
This is Caitlin Tyson, your Miss Cayman Islands Universe. Alzheimer's is a progressive and debilitating disease of the brain. It is not a normal part of aging. The impact of Alzheimer's touches the whole family. September is World Alzheimer's Month. Please join the Alzheimer's and Dementia Association Awareness Campaign. Contact a member of ADACI on 924-4170 for upcoming events.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman, one radio.